And we're going to move on now to our next story. Now, the sanctioned Russian Andrei Melnichenko was recently interviewed by Tucker Carlson on his YouTube channel. Now, if you're not from the US like me, Tucker Carlson is a former Fox News opinion host who was fired after the parent company agreed to pay over $750 million to Dominion, a company that makes voting machines in the US. Andrei Melnichenko is the owner of two super yachts, a motor yacht A, the one that looks like a submarine, and sailing yacht A, the latter, which was arrested in the shipyard in Trieste in Italy in 2022 after Melnichenko was added to the sanctions list in the EU, as well as various other countries, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And we covered it from the day it was arrested right up until the present day. His other yacht, a motor yacht A, which was the one that he had first, that's been hiding out in Dubai ever since, which is where we believe Mr. Melnichenko is now residing. Now, go back to the interview. Now, Mr. Carlson also said that Mr. Melnichenko had had his property stolen from him, something even Mr. Melnichenko never actually agreed with in the interview, saying that his property had been arrested by the various governments. And he went on to say that he believes he will eventually get his property back. Now, Tucker Carlson asked Mr. Melnichenko why he was on the sanctions list, and Mr. Melnichenko stated that he was sanctioned not because he did something bad, but because of who I am. That's a quote from the video. Now, in this interview, Melnichenko says that he's not an oligarch because he never had any favor from Putin. He said he's never met Putin one-on-one. He's only ever been in the room with him a couple of times. One of them was just before the invasion of Ukraine. And he said the Russian government he's never had any help from them with his fortune, and he was never involved in the privatization after the fall of the Soviet Union. He was, in fact, only about 16 years old when that happened. And this is something that various reporting backs up, including Forbes, who also suggests that Melnichenko is a self-made billionaire and therefore not what they call an oligarch. Melnichenko tells them that he owns two companies, and one of them is called Eurochem. Well, Eurochem makes fertilizer, and there was a long conversation about how sanctioning his company had caused the fertilizer to increase in price around the world, which is true. You know, I'm not saying that that's not true. It is true. And Carlson talked about the fact that fertilizer is used to grow food, and why would they sanction a company that is only trying to grow food? Well, anybody who knows anything about munitions and explosives knows that fertilizer, or the raw materials that go into it, can be used to make explosives. And this is where Mr. Melnichenko's companies appear to run afoul of the various countries that he's been sanctioned from. He's currently sanctioned by the EU, the UK, the US, Canada, Switzerland, Australia, Japan, Ukraine, and New Zealand. Now, according to research published on various websites, including this one, which I'll put a link to in the description and all the normal places, Eurochem serves defense companies specializing in explosives and combustible substances. Granulated saltrate has been purchased by chemical plants, which produces ammunition for various munitions supplied to the Russian military, which is specifically being used in the war in Ukraine, right? I'll put a list on the screen of the weapons that have been made allegedly using raw materials from Eurochem. We'll also put in the description a list of links where you can find further details about how the various companies have purchased materials from Eurochem and how they've used them to supply the Russian military. Now, since the interview, we've seen an increase in our videos on our channel, where on videos featured Mr. Melnichenko, you know, his yachts and seizures and stuff, asking why he's been put on the sanctions list. And no doubt these comments have been motivated by this recent interview. A lot of people seem to just believe whatever is said in these interviews, and then they start commenting around the internet as if they're informed, right? So anyway, now you've got some information about why Mr. Melnichenko is probably running afoul of the various different countries. Anyway, this is the first time I've ever watched an interview by Tucker Carlson. It's certainly worth watching, but only because Melnichenko is an incredibly smart person, and he was very interesting to watch, despite the framing of the questions which were loaded in his favor. Melnichenko answered them generally with neutral and interesting answers. Now, Melnichenko was on the Forbes list in 2021, saying that his value was about $17.9 billion. I don't know if it's changed since the war started in Ukraine. Now, I recognize that Tucker Carlson is a polarizing character in the US with his fans and his haters. But just remember, I'm not American. I don't live in America. I have no skin in that game. I just call it as I saw it or as I see it. And like I said, that's the first time I've ever watched an interview conducted by him. Thanks very much for watching this video. You've been watching a Super Yacht News clip. If you'd like to see the full unedited Super Yacht News video, you can click on the link over here. You can also find our channel links below here. And if you'd like to see more shorter videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to this channel.